Your Zoom there. Hi, Dana. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us today. 1 more minute and we're going to get started. Hi, Karuna. I see your question there about certificates, and everybody on here will absolutely be getting a certificate of participation for being here today. Welcome, Karen, Sally. Thank you for being here. Just a couple more seconds, everybody, and we're going to get started. If you just joined us, you just logged in, go ahead and let us know in the chat where you're joining us from today. Okay, it is officially 2 o'clock Eastern time, and I don't want to waste any of this hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. My name is Maddie. I will be your host of today's webinar. Today, we are connecting with Fairy Dust Teaching to talk about the art of child-led play experiences, and I am so excited. Quick reminder for all of you on here, if you haven't heard yet, maybe it's your first webinar with us, but we are doing a $50 gift card giveaway at every single webinar. So we will be announcing the winner. We'll be picking from the pool of all live participants today. We will be announcing the winner in our show notes email that is going out early next week. So just keep an eye out for that email. It could end up in your spam or junk, but we will announce the winner in there. If you are the winner, we are also going to contact you directly, so you do not have to worry about getting in contact with us. As always, a quick disclaimer before we get started with today's webinar. The content that is being shared with you today is not personalized, legal, or financial advice. So the goal today is for you to learn some really great tips, tricks, techniques, and strategies for you to bring into your center, your classroom, your homes, wherever it may be. But if you are looking at making any big changes at your center, we do just want to make sure that you are consulting the right people, such as a legal or a financial advisor. We are now going to give a listen to our land acknowledgement before we get started.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word Takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
And we are now going to give a listen to our diversity and inclusion statement.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
And a few housekeeping pieces before we get started. So as always, this session is being recorded. So if you have to pop out for any reason at all, do not worry, because we will be sending out the recording by early next week. As always, we're also recording with the closed captions enabled. So those are on for you. Those will be in the recording. But if you cannot see the closed captions on your side of the Zoom right now, and you do need to utilize those for today's live presentation, just be sure to hit that CC tab on your side of the Zoom. A certificate. So as always, for everybody on here, you will all be receiving a certificate of participation for taking the time out of your Thursday afternoon to sit here and learn with us. We will be sending those out to you by early next week. So no need to worry if you do not see that certificate today or even tomorrow. We will work on getting those to you by early next week at the latest. And lastly, connection. If you are having any issues, if you are having issues with your sound, if you're having issues with your video, we just want to make sure you're contacting the right people, and the people who can help you the best with that would be the support team over at Zoom. And you can contact them at support.zoom.us. Nora will also post a link in the chat for how you can contact the Zoom support team, and you can just pull it out of the chat, save it in case you do need to contact them today. Hi Mama Academy. If you're at all interested in learning more about play and child development, we have a very exciting 90-minute course in Hi Mama Academy called Play How Children Learn. So your learning does not have to stop here after today's webinar if this topic really resonates with you and you want to keep learning about it. This course in Hi Mama Academy will give you the tools to help you develop a playful teaching mindset and create a playful classroom environment. So super exciting. There are so many amazing courses in Hi Mama Academy that can further your learning from our webinars. In case you actually haven't even heard of Hi Mama Academy yet, it is an online platform that is designed to give early childhood educators on-demand access to professional development training. Super exciting. We have more than 60 ISET accredited courses that cover everything from STEM learning to infant care. Anything you're interested in, I promise you it is in Hi Mama Academy. and you get to learn and watch these courses on a schedule that works best for you. And you can watch them anywhere as well. If you do want to check out the course on play and how children learn, or any other courses that might resonate with you or that you want to learn more about, Nora will post a link in the chat and you can access a free 7-day trial. So you can pop into Hi Mama Academy, explore, see if it's something that would work for you and your educators without having to make any commitments at all. And finally, your host. Again, my name is Maddie. I am your host of our Hi Mama Helps webinars. I'm also a customer advocacy specialist here at Hi Mama. And I'm also one of the registered early childhood educators that we have here on the team. As always, I have my lovely co-host, Nora. Nora, how's everything going with you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Maddie?
Good. Anything exciting to share with our audience?
Um, I got up really early this morning and I went on a run and it's cold outside, but other than that, not much.
Oh my gosh, good for you. I'm very impressed, especially since it's pitch black in the mornings now.
Yes, very gloomy indeed.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Nora. And Nora is on the chat. If you have any questions, Nora will be in there with you today. And finally, last but absolutely not least, our special guest, Sally Haughey, the founder and CEO of Fairy Dust Teaching. Sally, welcome. How's everything going with you today? We're so excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I get so excited about sharing, what works with young children. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Sally, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you have an amazing presentation ready for everybody today. So I'm going to actually go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I will let you take over. I'll stay on until you have that figured out. I'll let you know, make sure we can see everything.
All right. How does it look?
Amazing. We are good to go. Thanks so much, Sally. Stage is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, everyone. So excited to be here. And today I want to talk about the art of child-led play experiences. Now, you might notice the title is different than, I think I had 3 different titles, but really, like, even the titles mean something to me. I wanted to really communicate what I'm up to. And that is, this is not a recipe. This is, being with children in play-based experiences. There's no formula I can give you that is going to give you the answer. It's an art form. So Sally Haughey, founder and CEO of Fairy Dust Teaching, soon to be Wonderled. We serve over 120 countries at last count. We have over nearly 250,000 educators, administrators, and parents on our email list. Mind blowing. Like, I can't even wrap my brain around it. And I bring with me 20 years of classroom experience in multiple settings. So I just want you to know what I share with you comes from the trenches of my experience. So I want to start by saying, as a child, I had undiagnosed auditory dyslexia. And because of that, the school system failed me. And how it failed me was just basically, I was compliant and shy, and, they let me slip through, even though I was not getting what I needed in learning. And one teacher made the difference for me. And that was my middle school art teacher. And I want to bring that. One is that one teacher can change the course of your life. What I find so intriguing is that one teacher who saw me, who saw my capacity, who saw my gift for art. What did I go to college for? What did I do? I went to art school, because that's where, and the only place that I felt success. And this is a drawing I did of a Life magazine image. So, I would spend hours drawing. And I went to school, to art school, and for a decade before I went into education, I was a painter. So I think it's really interesting to see, how did I end up here with fairy dust, right? So my passion for education began with my son. This is my son, Ben. And when he was in kindergarten, you guys, this is like, now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, he was in kindergarten, and I got a call from his kindergarten teacher saying, Mrs. Hoy, we need to talk. And when I went into that classroom after school, she walked up to me in heels and a dress. Like now, like at the time, it didn't mean anything to me. She was very professional looking. But now, kindergarten, I mean, we're on the floor, we're moving. Like that tells me now everything I need to know about her approach to education. But basically at that time, he would sit down at the computers, which were big, Apple computers, to play games, and fall out of his chair and cry. And she was saying, he's not ready. He can't sit still, all of these things. And I knew, my son was doing fine, but the system was saying, no, he's not. And in that moment, I left that room, went to the office, removed him from school, and put him in the backyard to play, because I knew that, that sense of failure for him in the system not meeting who he was. And so in that moment, this fire consumed me. What are the markers in early childhood of literacy? I knew my son was, in my opinion, brilliant, but what were the markers I needed to look at? And, through that, it launched, one, he didn't read until third grade. And because of what happened in kindergarten, I knew the markers to look for. And you know them like I do. And again, we'll touch a little bit on this as we move through it. But I want you to know that for me, what I do in Fairy Dust is very personal. It's about my own experience of education. It's about my son's experience of education, and the difference that we can make with young children, like literally change the course of their lives. So at the time, I was working in my church office, and then I was like an administrative assistant. I did the programs and changed the things in the pews and all of that kind of stuff. And there was a beloved preschool teacher, Martha, who came and said, I'm leaving. And because I was so passionate about education, I asked the director, can I have that job? And she said, on probation. So it was so interesting. I began my career with no formal training, no degree, no courses, nothing. I mean, I walked into my first position as a pre-K teacher with nothing, and I was on trial. And I was definitely what you would call an accidental educator. And that year I entered Waldorf kindergarten training. But just to give you a picture of my journey. So today, my goal is to help you master child-led play experiences, to give you a sense of what it truly makes a difference in a child's life. Again, this is personal to me. I'm committed to making a difference with you so you make a difference. This is not about formulas. This is about lives. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about wonder and play. We're going to look at invitations to play. We're going to look at provocations for play. And then we're going to look at wondering about play. So today is about you and your authentic teaching practice. Something really important about this, I want you to listen to me from this lens. How can what she's saying support my authentic teaching practice? How can this support the children in my care? And understanding what I'm presenting are my observations from my classroom and experience. It's not the truth, right? It's my truth. And because of that, I ask you, take what works and drop the rest behind. Trust your own sense. I think it's really important in education that as educators, we trust ourselves. You are enough. I spent years seeking, that moment of, okay, now I understand what's standing in front of me with these children. Like I used to just ponder, what is a good questioning of children? How do I do open-ended questions that don't just wreck play? How do I had all of these these concerns, and I spent countless wasted hours thinking I wasn't enough. And so I'm just telling you, you are enough. And I want you to listen to me. And anything I say doesn't resonate with you, toss it, ignore it. Just take what works for you. I want you to honor you. All right, so let's look at wonder and play. So, the question is, what is the foundation of understanding we must have for creating high quality play experiences? What is that foundation? Play, right? Play. This is the foundation of all of it. So all children are wired for play. It's one of the most universal drives inherent in human nature. Children are born knowing how to play, and wonder drives it. I was in Paris walking during the lockdown. During the summer of 2020, they opened up. And so I was walking I don't live there now, but I was living in Paris at the time, walking by a playground. And I was struck with the sound, because I could be anywhere in the world, that all children are wired with play. They share the language of play. Children who don't speak the same language can play together. I mean, it's astonishing, this inherent capacity of being human. A 3-month-old baby sees an object moving and wonders, where is it going? The baby tracks the object with their eyes. A 6-month-old baby sees a shiny red object and wonders what it feels like. The baby reaches for it. A 9-month-old baby sees an object and wonders what it does. They crawl to the object to inspect it. Wonder, interest, curiosity, whatever you name it, it's sparking play and driving development. We can see that so clearly in children learning to walk, that interest is driving development. We intuitively know and understand that babies' playful interests are driving the development of fine and gross motor skills. We delight in their delight. We encourage them and cheer them on. What I find so fascinating is we completely abandon this wisdom as children become more articulate. Why is a 4-year-old's interest in play no longer important as a developmental driver? It's interesting. Like, we're having to fight for it in pre-K, kindergarten. Where in the heck did we get the idea that worksheets are better for a budding mind than play? Because the truth is, play is what develops a child's physical, emotional, and mental growth. So what is play? It's a set of behaviors that is freely chosen, self-directed, and intrinsically motivated. That's play. And that is taken from the play workers movement, which I just absolutely recommend for understanding real play. Our role is to support those set of behaviors being freely chosen, self-directed, intrinsically motivated. Children in play are in control of the content and intent of their play. And this is where it gets slippery. And I'm saying that from being in the trenches, being in public school, being in Head Start, all the different places I've worked. And there's agendas there. So it's hard to give control of the content and intent of children's play when you're in constrained environments. So this is something that Maynell Walters, again, a play worker, said to me. And it was one of those moments that I remember it like yesterday. He said, play that we structure is not true play, it's structured play. Play that we guide is not true play, it's guided play. Structured and guided play are play opportunities that are grounded in the ideas of the educator, not the children. So immediately when we're grounding it in our ideas, it's no longer free play, right? I mean, it's clear. What we do is facilitate play. We get up underneath the children's play urges, which are the schemas. I love the word urges for schemas because it just makes so much sense to me. And they're big ideas and narratives. We're supporting their motivations. So let's take a look at invitations to play. One way we can facilitate play is through play invitations and provocations. And I know if you guys look online like I have, the variety of definitions for invitations and provocations are massive. So I'm just going to define them how I interpret them. And again, it's not the truth. It's just how I made use of those terms in my own teaching practice. Okay, so however you defined it, if it works for you, hold tight. That's yours. Own yourself. So an invitation defined, and this is from the dictionary, is a situation or action that tempts someone to do something. So when I would create an invitation to play, I was creating something that, let's say I set up something in blocks, that it's tempting, that it calls children forth to engage in it and to begin playing on their terms. I'm just sparking something. So, and the pictures on the side are all from a specific play invitation that I'm going to go into. If you're like me, I love going to thrift shops, antique malls, and I found this amazing farm strainer, and it was incredible. So an invitation invites children to explore. It invites them deeper into their own motivations in play. An invitation is like a play spark. It invites children to explore the materials in different contexts. So context is decisive. We can change the context and change their motivations. This invitation with the large farm strainer unleashed, and when I say unleashed, I mean avalanche, an interest in moving, scooping, pouring, and spilling. And at the time, I was a classroom next to another pre-K classroom, and we were open to each other's classroom. So I had 20 children, the other classroom had 20 children. And when we went to free play, we opened up both sides so they could go where they wanted. In this one little sensory table, I would have 20 plus children vying to get in, right? There were so many play schemas and urges to support and facilitate. The interest in this play invitation was so strong, I knew a provocation was the next step. As an educator researcher, I'm observing and wondering about the children's play urges and big ideas and testing my personal theories about their play, right? So I'm seeing all of this moving of the material through the sieve and through all the different scoops and et cetera that I had in that sensory bin. So I listened deeply. Observation of play is our primary task. It is what we do to support play. And again, I love the Reggio Emilia approach for the fact that, it really grounded in my own understanding that I have, the children have their theories and ideas that they're testing. I have my theories and ideas I'm testing, and ideally in conversation with colleagues. So provocations for play: define, stimulate or give rise to a reaction. Again, this is from the dictionary. Stimulate or incite someone to do or feel something. So, we're definitely taking what they're engaged in, their motivations, and amping it up, provoking it to another level. So a provocation provokes children's ideas and theories on a brand new level. The play urges I observed pointed to the movement of material. I presented the boxes as a provoking idea for creating something that would provide possibilities and hold more potential for narratives. So when they were at the sensory bin, what I observed was just the movement. There wasn't a lot of these are 4-year-olds, and I wasn't seeing a lot of narrative, a lot of ideas of you be this, I'll be that. It was just the movement of the material. I wanted to provoke narrative. I wanted that social aspect, that collaboration to rise. So my wondering was, the question, my theory was, would a structure provoke more stories than imaginative play? My theory was it would, that it would take what they were doing with the movement and amp it up to a new level. And I have to shout out another resource for you, noted, and I hope I get this right. It's Tom Bernard, and his Sand and Water Tables blog was one of the things that really provoked me to do this step. So just calling out his brilliance, my goodness. So the children, we built this structure, and we ended up having 2 sensory tables, got the sensory table from the classroom next door, started building this structure. The children had tons of ideas and thoughts about what to add to this machine that we were building. Boxes and tubes were brought from home, from the hallways. Like if the children were walking down the hallway of this public school, and saw a box, it was like gold, like, Mrs. Hoy, there's a box, we got to get it. It grew. This structure grew to 1/3 of my classroom. And I think there's something really important to say about that I accommodated their motivations and intention. So I accommodated the interest. Instead of putting population control up, I expanded that center so it could hold all of the children who had interest in it. So I think it's, looking at our classroom environments as malleable, as movable, as responsive to the children's play. I think classrooms need to be responsive. My friend Sandra Duncan always blows my mind when I have conversations with her, because that's her stand now, that we need to have movable, adaptable classrooms. And I think it's brilliant. All right. So, this structure kept growing. One day it would be a pizza shop. Another day, a garbage sorter. We were doing this big recycled study for Earth Day. It even became a power rocket. Signs were made and hung up. A provocation provokes children's ideas, their thoughts and actions that extend on an existing thought or idea, and invites them to go deeper into their motivations. And my whole idea that doing this would bring about narrative and stories and collaboration exceeded my expectation, blew it off the top. And it was just extraordinary. So the golden key to wonder-filled play invitations and provocations is the observation of play. This is our goal key. This is how we unlock what's possible in quality play experiences. I consider observation to be a form of loving attention. My mentor, Cynthia Aldinger, who is the founder of Lifeways, said that attention is love for children. When we're actually taking notes and observing children, they can feel our gaze. Like when you're observed, you can feel it, they feel it. And when we do that with delight and love, it's a form of actually bringing love into the classroom. So rather than being this institutional, I'm taking notes, I am joyfully and lovingly observing the magnificence of these children's play. It's really an important distinction. We are on a relationship path. The heart of play, invitation, or provocation is the deep listening we bring as we co-travel with the children. And I think this is what's so astonishing, that this journey with children is a mystery. One year to the next, the children, their motivations, where they go in their play, when we stay open and listen deeply for what is unique and special with those children, it's literally life-giving to me. Life-giving. It's just, yeah, I know you guys are there with me. It's like amazing. The process begins with us becoming curious perceivers. We're witnesses to the work and magic of play. We're bearing witness to one of the most extraordinary things in early childhood, play. It's extraordinary. We observe children's play with the deepest respect and honor. And this even goes to, and I think, again, Reggio Emilia approach, thank you, is, we honor the children's theories and ideas. They may say the stars are light bulbs that God turns on. We don't correct them. We honor and respect their ideas. They will have their own theories of why things are. And we really, just like, and I think this is really interesting, is that just like crawling leads to walking, their theory and ideas, where they're at, and even the nonsensical, are the developmental stage they have to go through to build their critical thinking. So we want to honor where they're at and their ideas. Children can feel our inner attitude. So our honor, they're going to feel, just like if I honor you, you feel my honor. I think it's really interesting. For years, when I would go and speak, the listening of the audience would feed me and who I was for them. And if I ever walked in a room that was judgmental, I could feel it, and I would have to generate myself more to get past that constraint. So I think we have to honor that. Children can feel it too. They're human beings. Children bring their full selves to play. Play is the sacred space of young children. This is sacred space. We do not give enough respect for the power and magnificence of play. We don't have time today, but I could go into how play develops executive functioning, how play develops what children need for academic learning, far more powerfully than traditional pre-K, preschool education. It is the powerhouse. It is the fiercest and most amazing development key that we have for young children, yet we're fighting for it. All right, so wondering about play. One practice of the teacher researcher is, like I said, is to wonder about play, to have our own questions that can drive our observation. So I know you have observations that are maybe domain, benchmark, standards driven, and that's that. But what we're talking about here is really observing play to support children's motivations and intentions, and to observe play for our own professional development, for our own cultivation of understanding. So there's two intents here, one for supporting children, one for supporting our own growth. So the journey of wondering, how can I facilitate this deepening relationship to a play urge or big idea? It's one very simple way of approaching, cultivating yourself in your approach with children. How can I cultivate social relationships around this deeper dive into play? So like when I brought that box structure, the social relationships that were made inside of the structure versus just the sensory bin were night and day. I mean, night and day. There was no comparison. It was extraordinary to watch. And so I knew that, children, I even did a little research after that about the power of spaces for children, containers, tents, like children love those spaces, and this structure they could stick their hands through, put tubes down that was malleable, movable, changeable. Our role is not to shape the play, but to support it. And that's where traditional early childhood education brings the themes. It brings it, the teacher is directing it all. It's all from the direction of the teacher's ideas. We want to give play its own space. We want to trust the children to provide the form. And we know the limbic system, when children are engaged, They are joyful. It's interesting how children will come home from school, like my grandsons, and you say, how was school today? Fine. What did you do? I don't know. Or recess. We had recess, and when they're deeply engaged, I've had classes of 3-year-olds who will tell their parents what they did at school that day because they were directing it. They were invested. So it supports oral language. One of the keys that I discovered with my own son's journey to literacy, he was extremely articulate and had fierce oral language. And that is the foundation of literacy. We want to support that in children. Our work is to keep what is already unfolding in the children's play supported and facilitated with resources. So one final little story as I begin to wrap this up. And some of you may have heard this story from me. It was one of those moments in my pre-K public school classroom that I will never forget because it unleashed literacy like nothing I've ever witnessed before or after. We were in this school was in a lower economic area placed right on the edge of a forest. So we had tons of wildlife that would show up. So one afternoon, my 4-year-old class found a family of turtles on the playground. There were 3 turtles. And little Claire said, Mrs. Hoy, they need a home. Her theory, her idea was they were without a home. And before long, long story short, we had them in the classroom in an aquarium from the science teacher gave us a huge aquarium. We set it up, put the turtles in. The class was thrilled. But the next day when I arrived, oh my goodness, that aquarium was filled with sparkling turtle poop. And so when the children arrived, I said, this is not okay. We can't, I left the poop in so they could see it. And I said, this is not healthy. There's not enough space for them because if we have this much poop sitting there, we have a problem. And then they understood that. And so we put them, and again, I'm the one handling the turtles. I put them in a box and we walked to the edge of the school by the woods and released them. Little Claire, the one that had urged us all to bring the turtles in, was hysterical. She wasn't just crying, she was hysterical. And she was convinced that the turtles would think we didn't love them. She said, how will they know we love them? And she came up with an idea to write a letter to them. And you're going to see here, like my assistant wrote what one little girl, Abby, had said. And so the children, we made cards that say turtle. They wanted to know how to write to the turtles. We wrote for them, etc. And I would say, probably 10 children were writing letters to the turtles. And we then took the letters and delivered them at the edge of the schoolyard. What's really interesting is this letter writing continued for months. We even created a little printable book of letters to a turtle. And as you can see, this was 2007. And, what I found so incredibly powerful was the drive to write didn't come from me setting up a situation. The drive came from love of the children. Why was the letter writing an opportunity for provocation? The children were emotionally attached. It was a real moment of wondering what will happen to the turtles. How do they feel about being released? These were the questions the children had. And this moment brought so many ideas and theories about what the turtles were experiencing. And so what I did to provoke it even further is I put a mailbox on the edge of the schoolyard for our letters to the turtles, which actually kept them going for a very long time. A highly effective provocation is built on existing motivations from the children. And, again, for me and my understanding, I was supporting their motivation, not mine. I was getting up underneath of it, providing a whole, set of materials for them. The best moments are when children are emotionally invested. We want to activate their limbic system. Their hearts are the way to education. Education is relationships, right? It's like the heart of all of it. And so 3 key understandings is that, and I call this my head, heart, and hands model, that at the level of the physical, there's the sensory input, whether it was the farm strainer, the turtles, there's this input, this sensory experience for children because they process the world with their senses. They're far more physical in their processing than we are. We're really mental, but they're so physical. And then the emotional connection that the turtles needed a home. And then they're making meaning. How do they feel? The meaning they were trying to understand is, how do the turtles feel? Now, I could have told them, turtles don't have feelings. The turtles are fine. They live in the forest. You don't need letters. They'll never read them. I could have gotten really but it would have destroyed this beautiful, rich, magnificent moment of literacy. That it was so powerful. Like those letters they wrote, parents would tell me that, I sent home multiple books of letters they wrote and how meaningful it was to the children and how the children would ask their parents to read them over and over to them. So I'm going to unpack a provocation. It's built on a current interest, turtle family. I leaned into that interest, agreed to bring them into the classroom. A wondering emerge as we release them. Will they feel unloved? Then Claire had an idea, a theory that we need to write letters to the turtles, that would comfort them, have them feel loved. I seized this moment with the children's wonderings and provided support and materials for writing a mailbox with turtle responding, which is a whole nother story, a whole nother provocation that arose that year was the turtles started to respond. Envelopes, word cards, images, we just provided what they needed. I could have dismissed their ideas, told the turtles can't read and been done with it. Instead, I listened deeply and acted on their theories. I provided the materials and responses to provoke their ideas into motion. I wanted to facilitate those. Important. What I'm sharing today is just one perspective of how to provide engaging play experiences. It's more of an art than a science. It's a way of being more than a technique. There's no formula for play invitations or provocation. It arises in the moment, in the now, with children. Reflection of your process is the pathway to excellence. This is how we uncover our blind spots and constraints in supporting and facilitating play. In other words, there's no easy way. It's just like learning to throw a pot on the wheel. You do it over and over and over again, and you start to gain capacity. And that is it. So I'd love to hear if there's any questions.
Sally, thank you so much. I don't know, it takes a minute for my video to come back, but it's on its way.
Yes.
Sally, I feel so excited, just from everything you shared, your passion about it, your excitement, and feel a little speechless, to be honest. That was just so great. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen again. And then I am going to launch a quick poll to the audience. So in the meantime, Sally, take a look at the chat because there are a lot of really beautiful comments in there for you. Before we do dive in, I do have a couple questions for you, Sally, that I'm really excited to hear your take on. I am going to go ahead and launch our questions of the day out to everyone. You can go ahead and quickly let us know there, and then the box will go away. We'd love to know, how do you currently observe and document children's play? So what's going on at your center for you to track what the children are doing? And we'd also like to know if you are interested in learning a little bit more about how Hi Mama Academy can put professional development at your fingertips and support you and your educators. So I am going to leave that up for you, and then we'll dive in to our Q&A. Sally, are you ready?
I'm ready. Yes.
Okay, so I have a big question for you here, and I'm really curious your opinion. So what are your thoughts on asking questions during play? And how do we do that with without putting expectations on the children, or without, just without even doing much, we're a powerful presence just by being an adult. So how do we do that with children? Or would you recommend not really just randomly putting questions into their play?
Well, it's so interesting. As I said in my own presentation, I really struggled with that in my career, because my exploration of questioning is, I always felt like I would ask a question and it just plopped on the ground, like I had just thrown a rock in there, and like they're looking at me like, what are you doing? What are you saying? Why are you talking to us? We're fine. So I think that for me, um, I I have questioning. What I found in play, that was not the time for me. It never worked. It, like, I just, not that you can't, because again, I really want to honor each of us have our gifts, and that was not my gift. So if you have that gift, yes, I want to honor you. Again, that I am not the truth teller. I'm just sharing my experience. But afterwards, when I would have class meetings and I would debrief from play and we talk about it, I would say, I saw that you guys, built a home for the turtles. Like, at one point during the year, they built a cardboard home to put on the side of the woods by where the turtles were. And, I just had a conversation asking them questions. That was natural for me, where, in the middle of their play never felt right. I just could never get it right. Those of you who know how to do that, rock on. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like my brain wasn't enough in their world. I could never quite get in their world enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a
Yeah.
disruption.
I completely agree with you, Sally, which is why I asked. I found when I was an educator, I used to ask a ton of questions during their play, thinking like, oh, look at me being so great, like getting all their questions and scaffolding their play. And then I realized that I was starting to direct their play based on my questions. And I was
That's
changing
it.
it completely based, they would have done something else, but I said, oh, could you stack that on top of your tower? And then they do it. And I just changed whatever they would have thought to do based on their own curiosity. So very
Exactly.
interesting.
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Another question for you here. How do you find the balance of, I'm just reading my question over on my screen here. How do you find the balance of letting kids do their own thing and engage in child-led play, but also making sure that we're keeping children safe?
Well, and I think this is something I'll speak to from my Waldorf training. I feel that when I start every year, I always say my first task was to fall in love with each child and to have a deep relationship with each child. And you do develop this sense of eyes behind your head, like keeping the pulse of the classroom, the energy of the classroom. I'm going to be straight up and transparent. There is an energy in the room when things are humming, and there's an energy that goes lopsided where, just as same as a parent, you're like, ooh, like with my own children, it's way too quiet in the house. What is going on? In the classroom, it's more of a kind of an electrical feeling that I would, I'm constantly tracking, I'm constantly looking, I think being a good early child educator is a part that tracking is crucial. You're not ignoring, like, I am looking and holding space with every child in my class all day long. And, I've had children leave the classroom and head out the school door and down the street. And I know within minutes because I'm tracking. So I think it's really important. That is our responsibility, that we are holding. And so I always, like, Swan, the Nutcracker, not the Swan one, but Nutcracker with Mama Gina, or, that big woman with the big skirt and she had all the children underneath in the ballet. That's the image that I had, that I was walking with this big skirt holding the children and their safety. So, children can be risky and we're holding space with them. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still giving that space for children to engage in their own learning well, being a bit of a protector of the classroom and being able to have those skills to quickly scan if something is about to happen and making sure we keep them safe.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's intuitive. So someone was just like, when that child left so like I was scanning and something was off, and I said, go to the restroom and see if there's a child in the restroom. My assistant ran to the restroom and found the little boy had pooped his pants and left the pants in the bathroom, was so embarrassed. He headed out the door to go home to get new pants. And we literally, because I'm holding the space, we caught him before he had any, he got outside the doors, but we had him. Had I not been tracking and watching and holding, then, what would have, I can't even imagine what might have happened, but I think that's part, like, I've had years where there's runners. And I think there is something that at no other time in education do we have to hold space so much as we do with young children, because they're
Absolutely.
discovering the world, Yeah.
Absolutely. So one kind of key message I'm gathering from you, Sally, and from that story is that, and just to make sure everyone on here also understands, because I'm sure the question of how do we keep children safe? I mean, that's obviously a huge concern. But my key understanding here is child-led learning doesn't mean we just let children do whatever they want. They go grab the scissors and they run around. It just means that we let them follow their own skills and curiosity, and we are there to set boundaries when it gets unsafe.
Thank you. And so here's and this is what I think is the balance, is that this is a deeply engaged child-led educator is up underneath the children. There is no free for all in chaos. We're actually orchestrating, like a conductor of an orchestra, these magnificent motivations and intentions in play. And that respect and honor, like I respect and honor children, and they respect and honor the materials. Like I have an expectation of who they're being in the room, that they're kind, that these values I hold dear run through all of it, right? Yeah. And I think that's part of what puts play-based education at risk, is that people think it's a free-for-all and that children get to do whatever they want. That is not what we're talking about, And if you're afraid of like conflict resolution, when children are having conflict, it's a mighty privilege to sit down and facilitate, understanding. We don't let the fight just ensue. We take this opportunity to give them those skills.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing, Sally. And I know, I really appreciate how you phrase that, because I know it's so challenging when parents have expectations, like where are the worksheets? Why aren't they sitting down? This doesn't seem academic enough, because they just don't have always that deep understanding of how important play-based learning is and child-led play experiences are. I think we get so caught up in worksheets because they look more professional, and this field already struggles with looking professional. So I think we can get really caught up in that. I do have one more quick question that I want to make sure we ask in the next minute or so before we have to start wrapping up. But I saw a question in the chat here, so I'm scrolling up to make sure I find it. But a member of the audience asked, how can we allow them to lead their own play, but make sure that we're staying on our curriculum and in the time limits for the schedule of the day in the classroom?
Well, and I think, context is decisive. There's not a single answer I can give you, because your circumstance is unique. The children you have is unique. Your setting's unique. The constraints are unique. But I taught first grade and I had free choice in the afternoon. I had to do the curriculum in the morning. I think it's important, though, if you have a mandated curriculum, that we can honor children in the process. When I had kindergartners, I would tell them what was on our docket and what the other classes were doing. And this is my idea of how we fulfill that standard, that we have to do an activity and we have to talk about it. And then I'd ask them, what did they want to do? Did they have a better idea? And by, the end of the year, they're completely in dialogue, helping to design what we do. I gave them voice in the constraint. So I think we have to think outside the box. Like if you're in a constrained environment, you only have so much free play. Then how can we honor children as co-travelers the rest of the time?
Right. Absolutely. So still hitting those expectations you have to hit and following the schedule, but bringing their voice into it as well, and setting their expectations and being honest with them about how the classroom functions.
Yeah. And what they thought, like I would, by, mid-year, they're going, Mrs. Hoy, I already have an idea what we can do. Let's do this. I even had classes that developed worksheets. They decided they wanted to construct their own worksheets. Now, what they constructed was completely unusable, but I didn't say, oh, those are unusable. I allowed them to construct them. I printed them and they handed them out. Like they just, all sorts of things spring forth. And I think it's really important to honor children and their ideas.
Absolutely. Sally, thank you so, so much for all of this, your knowledge, your stories, your passion for child-led play experiences. This was such a beautiful webinar. I really, really appreciate you being here with all of us. And I know I speak for everyone else on here because the chat is just blowing up with praise for today's webinar. So Sally, thank you so, so much. We really appreciate you, and we certainly hope to work with you again soon. Thanks so much, Sally.
Thank you
care.
for having me.
Of course. Bye-bye. For everybody else on here, before we do wrap up, just a quick reminder, we are sending out the show notes email, which will announce the winner of the $50 gift card with the recording and certificates. Those are all going out by early next week. So just take a look in your inbox and make sure to check your spam and junk folders for that certificate. It does like to sneak in there. Next week, same time, same place. We are back here Thursday, October 27th, 2:00 Eastern time. We are talking with the fabulous Prerna Richards on 5 strategies for building stronger connections with children. I am super excited. I hope to see you all there. You can sign up now. Nora has posted a link in the chat. Again, that giveaway, we'll be sending that out, announcing the winner early next week. It has to be one of you on here, so you don't want to miss that email. Lastly, if you have not connected with us yet, please do. We have an amazing Circle Time Facebook group on Facebook for early childhood educators. There are so many educators in there sharing their ideas, sharing what they're doing this fall, this upcoming holiday season, challenges they're facing, strategies they're using. It's just a beautiful networking group sharing ideas. So definitely pop in there. And if you don't, please do follow us on Instagram as well, because we announce some very exciting updates. We announce upcoming webinars on there, so you don't have to miss a beat. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here with us today on this Thursday afternoon. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day and see you all again next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.